and then I will let Clarence take it from here. Oh, Megan Leary.
Okay, thank you, Heather, for getting us started, and thank you everyone for joining us. This work group didn't meet at the last work session we had, so this is going to be the first meeting of this particular work group. And as we've been going through and updating, going through the CEDS and doing the yearly updates and everything, you know, we've identified the actions here under what are we focusing on? CEDS strategy number 2, build interest, investment in and capacity for locally owned, operated, and innovative businesses. The actions in the CEDS are listed. For those of you on the phone that can't see, continue the small business development Best in the West competitions to encourage entrepreneurship in the YK region, support micro lending opportunities for startups, entrepreneurs, commercial fishers, and small business owners, develop how-to manuals or resource guides that detail success stories, resources, and links for where to find information and assistance for a person, entity interested in starting a local produce business, develop training programs related to all facets of business. Examples, business development, accounting, payroll, labor laws, how to research laws and regulations, growing, harvesting, producing products, how to add value, market advertising, customer service, how to sell and transport goods. And there's a bunch of other CEDS actions at the bottom of this document that we can get to at the end of our conversation here. But I guess the first thing we're going to really look at is under CEDS strategy number 2, is it, you know, for those of you that are involved with this work group, build interest, investment in and capacity for locally owned and operated, and innovative businesses. So, anyone have anything to add or for this particular focus? If someone is trying to say something, it's I can't hear. I thought I heard somebody.
Yeah, it looks like Andrea Gusti is raising her hand.
Okay, Andrea.
Hey, thank you so much. TKC, this is really the first time we're participating in the CEDS process. So thank you for the invitation to do that. We represent 10 communities in the Middle Kuskokwim. And one of our big projects that we're working on right now is a regional training and economic development center. And that would be based in Aniak. And so a lot of our priorities are not only to train people for projects in their communities, whether that be if you have an airport project, you have a heavy equipment training, we bring that training to you. Now we're trying to do it on a regional basis, but we also have heard very loud and clear from our residents that there does need to be support training, maybe just connecting to some of the programs that already exist at the EDA or others so that they can build capacity to own their own businesses. And so We are very much focused on that in our region. I will also point out that we are making efforts to lower the cost of living. We have a store that we operate out of Antioch, and we serve a number of our communities. And that is a store that is operated as a nonprofit. We hope to break even at some point in the very near future. But our number one goal for that is to lower the cost of living in our region, because when you have monopolies in a place, we know that those businesses can charge whatever they want. And so working really closely with our tribes on development of some of these things, but I will say big things are happening in the Middle Kuskokwim around supporting and building our economy above and beyond any large projects that might be proposed. We're looking at small, where can we meet people where they're at, as we prepare for those possible large projects right in our backyard. But how can we support and strengthen the economy of the Middle Kuskokwim and the entire river with smaller projects now that are very, very targeted.
Do we have anyone on from Utah? I was only asking because listening to Andrea, I could hear, there could potentially be a tie with Utah and maybe an expansion to have a satellite place in location in Antioch, and that might be something that that would help the cause.
Clarence, thank you for that point. Yes, we are currently working with Ute. We are working with NIT here in the Mat-Su Valley. We are working with AVCP Workforce Development, bringing all the partners. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think that the best ideas when you think about entrepreneurship and how we can support the economies of the region, it's bringing all those partners together. And that's what we really hope that this center will be, is a place to convene those ideas. And the other thing that we're looking at is this idea of micro-credentialing, where we take the skills and the ideas that people have in our communities, and we help them get the piece of paper to go along with that so they can take those ideas to the next level. So that's really more of the workforce development piece. But in terms of the economies, I mean, there are great businesses that operate in our region. Maybe they just need a little bit of extra help or connection to existing programs to get to that next level. And then how can we work with the funding sources that we have out there to make all of this a reality in conjunction with our tribes, our cities, and then individuals. So yes, everybody at the table. We're not looking to create something where we're bringing in a bunch of instructors and we're just going to have them sit around. We're going to bring in targeted instructors for that. And we find that our people in our region tend to be a lot more successful when we bring the training to them, even asking them to go to Bethel or to Anchorage or to Seward for training. They have a really hard time maintaining that home balance that we know is so, so important. So when we bring the resources to the region, we really can strengthen the economy from the inside out.
Anyone else with some comments, discussion on CEDS strategy number 2? Something
Clarence.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, many years ago, back in the late 80s or 90s, I utilized AVCP's services in attending it was a cooperative effort with AVCP, University of Alaska. I don't know if others were involved, but I utilized that program to attend a crash course that was held in Fairbanks. And it was focusing on people that were interested in starting an entrepreneur business. And the focus of that training, crash course, 1 month training, was business plan writing. And a business plan is required by many lending agencies to look at that business plan to do a visibility research on the business plan before they give a certain amount of loan to a potential business person or business individual to start off that business. But it was a great experience for me to attend that and got to experience business plan writing before I went out, sought financial assistance to start off the business. So I think that's another great program to work with other agencies to assist in developing a business plan before they start the business, if they are seeking to seek financial assistance to start their business. And I had seen some university classes that were offered in Bethel, and universities, marketing is one. I took a lot of those classes. I don't see those often anymore. And they have them once in a while. And that's another opportunity that might be beneficial to those that are aspiring to start a business to take advantage of it, and for someone to recruit and advertise those so that they can come and attend those classes and training sessions, and at the same time get credit for those. Thank you.
Something that I heard when Andrea was speaking was building side out and looking at some of the actions on here. You know, some of these things like the catcher seller program and growing and harvesting produce and things like that are all things that could help from the inside out, since there's a lot of people that do these things right in our region anyway. So that's and I think there are a lot of startup programs out there for these particular small businesses. And any other reasons why these, why is this topic important? Anyone have any input on these right now before we move on?
This is Natalie Henson. I would like to offer the thought that this topic is especially important with this conversation that's happening in parallel around connectivity and in the communications track. So and as everybody who was in that conversation knows, with increased internet access, we're going to expand the potential customer base for folks in the region for any sorts of services and consulting, or even selling goods. And so I think that this conversation, in tandem with the conversation around internet connection and increasing internet speeds, is really important, so that we are ready, our local businesses are ready to potentially take advantage of improved access to internet. People can now become influencers from the YK Delta, which is a small business in itself. So yeah, just that potential is, I think, really, really going to be ripe and promising.
And if you're on the phone, *6 to unmute and *9 to raise your hand if you don't have a computer screen. So if I think at this point we could scroll down to the highlighted areas at the bottom there. So this is starting from the 2018 CEDS. There were a number of strategies that were part of the CEDS starting from 2018. All of those are highlighted. Are any of, just reading through these, scrolling through these, would any of these come to the forefront that would be important to focus on as priorities? Would you like to say something, Shirley?
I was looking at G that says create micro lending opportunities to support startups, entrepreneurs, and commercial fishers. EDA has a program that's called our Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And one of the programs we have is to assist folks who are interested in doing a micro lending opportunity, how the funds will be used to help you start that program, but not used to actually lend the funding, because there are a couple of EDA revolving loan funds that are in the state where you can get the funding, but it's just to help you start up that micro lending process.
And would that include any kind of business? Say if there's some people out there in the villages that want to maybe start their own river taxi, would it cover a startup like that?
It covers just helping the organization set up the program to do the lending, and whatever businesses that are pertinent to the area. Yes, there are RLF loan funds, or we have an RLF loan program that someone could do a grant to get the funds, and then they could be the one that does the lending. But the applicant has to be an eligible applicant. We can't provide the funding to individuals, but to organizations. The lending piece, Clarence, it all depends on how the organization sets up the lending program. We actually have a manual that helps them set it up. And we have loan specialists that in the agency that helps with that also.
Andrea, no, I don't think we have looked at challenges or obstacles or anything like that. This is the first time this particular work group is meeting. So this is starting off pretty fresh. So if you wanted to, we could take some time and maybe talk about challenges. right before we get into action planning. If no one else has any comments on or wants to add some of these highlighted items to prioritize.
So, Clarence, this is Shirley again. Under I, it says encourage local innovation. The other piece to our Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship is we actually help take an idea that someone has and help them commercialize the idea. And so what it is help them do the research and development of the product so it can be commercialized. So we also have that program also.
Thank you, Shirley. Anyone on these highlighted items?
If I could just jump in really quick from the Best in the West, I saw that one of the priorities, I think it was under O, said to expand mentorship and assistance. And I just wanted to say that we actually kind of did a revamp of the curriculum this year. And so we did add a mentorship component and we paired all of the participants with a mentor. But I also wanted to say that if anyone, we're always, looking for people to serve in a mentorship capacity for the participants. And similar with business advice or management, a lot of the program partners actually of Best in the West are based out of Anchorage. So we have connections here, but we don't have as many connections, of course, in the region. So if anyone has, connections or local business owners who could serve in a mentorship capacity, we're always looking for that. And plan to do the additional mentorship program this year as well.
And I understand that the person that helped run Best in the West last year moved. So is there, and I know Renee Athanas came back to help out a little. Is there another person that's taking that over here?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I was actually hoping to possibly find out about that on this call, but I really don't know the status of hiring of that position, or if it was going to be something somebody else took over. But I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion on these highlighted items?
Clarence, this is John. Maybe under I, something that may be included is, what are the needs in every village has a need, and what are they? I think I mentioned one of them yesterday. As villages are now leaning towards efficient commodities like four-stroke engines, four-wheelers, and now some villages are using trucks. Maybe a recycling center for used oil. If some of you watch Discovery or one of those channels, you can recycle or reuse that oil for so many times, and then after so many times it's been recycled, it's no good anymore. Then what do you use that used oil for? That's one area. So that may be something to look at, or something to help villages to see what are the needs in the village and who is interested in starting a business to make some money, so that these the money stays within, money circles within that village.
All right, hearing silence for a while here. Heather, do we want to move back up to section B and maybe add in a box there right underneath question number 2 and talk about some obstacles and challenges that, you know, what Andrea brought up about the identifying challenges to the regional economy.
Hey, Clarence, if it's okay with you, I can start a couple of things that we've seen as an employer in the region.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously we have a number of initiatives in our 10 communities, but I also serve on the board of directors for North Star Distributing, which distributes to stores all over Alaska goods. And one of the biggest barriers that really became apparent during the pandemic was transportation, as the airlines were squeezed. For some of them, for reasons outside of their control, others were within their control. Service really slowed down for many of our communities. So even if you had a business in those communities, you couldn't get the goods that you needed to actually stock your shelves, or couldn't get the ingredients for your sandwich shop. And so in so much as this regional effort can identify those challenges, maybe we can find regional solutions to that. Obviously, aviation is a private business, but it's heavily subsidized by the Bypass Mail program. And so I don't know if it's an advocacy effort. I don't know if it's a trying to work with some of the service carriers effort. There's a lot of different facets to that. The other big challenge, and Megan, who's my regional operations director, can tell you, is finding willing people to work. And I don't know what the solution is. We have not found it yet, but this is something we're seeing nationwide with the pandemic. Is everybody is shorthanded. And when you're talking about a small community with a limited number of people and then a limited number of able-bodied people who can work, your employment pool is really shallow. And so it's even more basic than soft skills that we were talking about during the workforce development. It's people willing to work. It's people willing to wake up. It's people, willing to go in to report for duty on a regular basis. And we're finding that as the tribes have so much money coming in from the CARES Act or the ARPA funding or any of those, they are becoming powerhouse employers in our communities with inflated paychecks. And we just cannot compete if you're trying to run a business, not a nonprofit, because the tribes don't have to worry about not hemorrhaging money, right? Because they have federal and other monies coming in according to the rules for tribal funding. But if you're operating a business, you're competing with these often inflated hourly wages. And so we're finding that a lot of the workers in these communities are going to where they can be paid twice as much. Makes sense. And if you're actually trying to run a business and not lose money, it's hard to compete. So those aren't probably popular opinions, but it's the reality of the situation that we're seeing as an employer.
Thanks, John. Can I add to what Andrea Custody said? And part of the challenge is finding the challenge is substance abuse. Some of these jobs, they require that a person be clean of any kind of drug that may hinder them from landing that job because of the requirements of that job to avoid accidents or incidents. So that's another thing, is substance abuse to find willing workers, and the other piece is finding the qualified workers. Again, that touches on substance abuse. They're tied together. So I think there's a program that I really like how that Judge Rash from New York area put it this way. And this program is growing. It's the Tribal Justice Program. He had a great analogy of how the community can work together, these entities can work together to correct these social issues. But those are some things that I wanted to add. Thanks.
John, is that something you could share a link or something in the chat?
I think some of the things that John was referring to are like the wraparound services that would help an individual and family in ways that would allow them to work towards better living, healthy living.
Exactly. Yes.
Maybe one one challenge could also be just the education and everything. Like some people who start running their businesses, they don't realize the tax reporting and the different requirements to run their business, and maybe having some kind of educational component early on in school would help that.
And that's what that business plan writing that I took covered. It covered just about anything to do with that business, how to operate it, maintaining taxes and whatnot. That included that, and that was offered through UAA, partnership with UAA and ABCP at that time. So that is a great important thing. I feel that should be on the curriculum of that. If that class is still available. I saw that UAA at one time. They had some business courses available.
I can also chime in and say that we definitely still do. In addition to supporting Best in the West, which is of course only in the YK region, we also have another program open to anywhere in Alaska called Upstart Alpha, and that's also a business training program to go over things like finding customers and writing a business plan and financials. So that's also another option. And it is free.
And Heather, maybe in where you said UAA, ABCP partnerships, maybe put school districts in there too, then just go down all the way into school districts.
And that's UAA that offers the Upstart Alpha?
Yep, that's UAA Center for Economic Development. Or I guess it's technically, we're based at UAA, but serve statewide.
All right, anyone else with some challenges that they want to bring out? So the next part of our work group time today is going to be going into action planning and spending some time action planning, you know, based on the things that we've just talked about. You know, what do we need? What tasks need to happen over the next 2 years, 1 to 2 years, to kind of see these things start falling into place, and who would be the leaders and partners in overseeing these?
So are we continuing the small business development competitions? Best in the West?
The Best in the West has been pretty successful out here, so I think a lot of people have gotten the Best in the West. So I think it would be good to continue.
And that is the Center for Economic Development runs those?
Yes, in partnership with the UAF Kuskokwim campus and Bethel Community Services Foundation. In the Cultural Center.
Look at that, we've got one down. Okay.
Actually, we could also add Alaska Growth Capital, and we had someone from AVCP also on the organizing team last year. So can add those two.
Okay, maybe connected to that, we have these training programs. I'm going to copy that one and put it here. And this one, Clarence, you had said that we should include this with the school districts, yes?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to do outreach and education all the way down to, you know, to kids who are who might be interested in running their own businesses at a young age.
So is there maybe an existing program that we could build off of on this?
I think LKSD has ready programs, and with the recent you know, transfer of the Kibuzovic to LKSD, operates the theater, and they bring students in through that particular ready program to become business literate. And I think that's that started right before the pandemic. I'm not exactly sure, you know, how it's going now, but it was open to Bethel students and students from the villages, to LKSD villages.
Okay, is there? Anybody else, any other organizations that we should include as a potential partner on this?
Anyone out there from the group? Do you have an opinion on Heather's question?
It sounds like maybe the Kuskokwim Corporation is doing a version of this for their communities.
Hi. Yeah, so the other thing that we've started since the pandemic, we call them lunch and learns, and they are designed and administered through Facebook Lives, and help people with being a good employer. But we were just recently discussing how we might bring some of these EDA programs and other trainings to people wanting to start their own business. So we're limited, like I think everybody is with COVID, but looking to ways that we can help share the information, again, the good work that other people are already doing. Limitations, of course, for the region are stable internet connections to be able to participate in those. And so that's one of the things that our regional training center is going to be aiming to do, is broadcast some of those things out of Antioch and then have receiving stations in each one of our communities. So we are, you know, I've been now in all of the sessions, and it's really interesting but exciting to see how everything connects, right? We're working on housing and cost of living and training and all of these things. You almost can't have one without the other. And so in every aspect of we do, any money that we're investing in the region, we want to have a training component. We want to have a business component. We want to, again, prepare our people for whatever comes their way. So I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I know that as part of these conversations, we are talking with school districts about how we can partner and provide trainings to their students closer to home. I know the Excel or Alaska Excel program also exists and serves a lot of kids from districts in the YK region, and they do a lot of job readiness, but also financial literacy and real world life skills for their students. And I believe, what is it? LKSD has something similar where they bring kids here into Anchorage. So I think there's a lot of existing programs that are out there that maybe it takes a conversation with those program managers and adding a component for business development, because a lot of kids have great ideas. All our people have great ideas, but young kids especially have exciting, innovative things to share. And so it might be a good idea to start focusing on helping them develop those, again, recognizing that there are a lot of existing resources available.
Well, that's very helpful. Look, I think we have two implemented, or no, not implemented, 2 tasks filled out.
And scroll back up to, yeah.
As far as like a how-to manual or resource guides, this one I think came up originally under discussions that were focused around produce businesses, but maybe maybe there is already something that's a little bit more broad that exists.
This is Shirley. There are some manuals that already exist that EDA funded the Center for Economic Development to develop. And there's one that's called How to Do a Fish Plant, How to Run a Lodge Business, Developing a Business Plan. And there's a couple of other ones. And I think those are online at the CED website.
Okay. And is that, oh boy. Did somebody have a link to that?
I can get you a link and send it.
Maybe, yeah, maybe if it's easy for somebody to find a link and put it in the chat, people might be interested in that.
I can do that.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna copy these. And I apologize to all of the people who were hanging out in the waiting room.
And I see that Fanny Black has joined us, and she's from over at YE. And you know, we were talking about the working with villages, or well, working with the TKC area, and maybe doing some satellite trainings. Fanny, is that something that YE would be open to investigating?
Yeah, that's something I have thought about before. We do have yeah, I think there would just be some minor changes we'd have to make just because of our credit. You know, when we get accredited by the state, we tell them all of our training happens here at Ute. So there would just be some minor changes we'd have to make, but that shouldn't be a problem. And I'm definitely excited about doing something like that. So yeah, I'm interested in exploring that with our training programs.
I see that Miranda has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Clarence. So I just wanted to share a good idea that Brenda had. I think she's might be in the middle of something right now, but I wanted to make sure it was on the docket of stuff for folks to consider, because I thought it was worthwhile. And forgive me, because I'm jumping in. I was over on the transportation session, so if we talked about this before, but we're in talks right now of how to best organize and kind of curate a list of YK businesses in region. So that's something that we have interest in working on over at Chalista, and would love to make that a collaborative effort. You know, if there are businesses that we can feature in there, please feel free to, email me with those. Feel free to spam me. And if it's okay to volunteer Brenda to be spammed with those emails as well, then we can work towards starting to build something to share those. And then the other good idea that Brenda had was utilizing a Facebook group to share job postings and information as far as, potential job postings. If there's a contract or something that's obtained in the YK, to give folks a heads up to look for information in the future. So it can also be a clearinghouse for that as well. And I will leave those open for other folks to refine or if there's a better place for that to live. We don't have to host it at Chillista, but would, love to support those efforts if somebody else would like to take that on, or we can host that, whatever folks are comfortable with. Thanks very much.
If I can just share another suggestion and something that we do with anybody who comes onto our land that is interested in doing any kind of work, is over the last couple of years, TKC, as the surface owner, if anybody wants to come in to do an airport project or wants to utilize a gravel pit, we have been waiving our regular rental fees or land access fees in exchange for tangible shareholder hire requirements. And as part of that, on-the-job training for any company that comes in. And so that's one way that we as a corporation, $10,000 in land access fees waived for a project is really a drop in the bucket for us, but really makes a significant impact for the families of the people who can get jobs on that project, because now that person or that company or that organization is required to hire qualified shareholders to do the work. And then we work with that employer to make sure that our people are ready for those jobs, so that they're still hiring qualified folks that they need, the qualified workforce they need, but we've ensured that the local workforce has priority for those jobs. They're ready for those jobs.
So as we're going along here, we'll, besides the tasks and the leads and partners that we're talking about and writing down, we also need to spend some time looking at, okay, when we accomplish these tasks, what are the indicators of success? What will it look like to say we're successful in reaching these tasks? And then we'll also need to look at question 5, which is the funding opportunities for each of those. So I'm doing a time check with everyone. We have about an hour left still, but we still need to talk about those two things, and then our final comments and talking about when we should meet again as a work group. So anything else on the tasks that need to happen over the next 1 to 2 years?
I just wanted to throw out a question because it's my understanding that I think Bethel is the only region without a chamber of commerce. So if that's accurate, just a question if folks think that's a worthwhile goal to reconstitute that, or if it would be better to try to work on other things instead. Thanks.
What does the work group think?
Clarence, this is Shirley at EDA. In other regions, the Chamber of Commerce has been a real asset to our planning grantees because they can do things a lot of times that our planning grantees cannot do. And I don't know, I think it might be a good consideration for the ABCP region with their desire to expand into developing businesses and providing training. I think that would be a good asset for the region.
Okay, the ideas have been flying fast and furious. I'm not sure if I've gotten everything in the last couple of things that people said in the notes. So if you're not seeing something that needs to be there, please let me know. Thank you.
And then the Chamber of Commerce. Did you get that, Heather?
I did not.
So reestablishing like a Chamber of Commerce in the Bethel region. I don't know if one was established before, so I just said reestablishing it. So if that's the wrong, if I'm wrong, we can just say establish.
Yeah, I think it's reestablished because there's a mention of it on the internet, but the link is dead. So I think it was there and then ceased to exist. I talked with the State Chamber of Commerce director, and she'd kind of, I think, given the impression that it was, there before. And currently it's I think the only region in the state that isn't active within that organization. And then of course it has a state kind of parent organization and then a national one. So I'm not familiar with it, honestly, but I was just raising that as a potential thing for folks to think about because it might be a good, source of resources and kind of that national network of information for the region.
So who would be a good lead for this particular task? Is that something that Celeste might want to lead?
Well, I was just going to see if folks are interested in it, we could look at next steps. And I wonder if, more information might be helpful to see if that's something that people in region want. So I could speak with the state director and see if there are resources that we could share, or maybe she could come and talk at the next meeting. Does that sound like a good way to proceed? So we're making an informed decision on whether or not we should have it in the community.
Yeah, that would be a good item to bring to a future meeting, a future work group meeting.
Yeah, sorry, did you say just have that on the next agenda?
Yeah, we could bring it to a future. Once we determine when our next meeting is, or if we're going to be doing a schedule or anything. Like some of the other work groups have developed a schedule, like a quarterly schedule, and it's up to each work group to decide if they want to do something like that. So that's something we can talk about towards the end, right before we close. But
that sounds great.
Yeah, future meeting. And I saw in the
Thanks.
chat that Natalie said that Bonnie Bradbury was a person who most recently coordinated it. So maybe we can plug in Bonnie's name someplace in there. Who might be able to come and talk to us about it locally if we can't find information from the state.
So Clarence, this is Shirley again. You know, through, well, with the other state chambers of commerce, they've developed those visitor guides for their regions. And through the EDA planning grant process, we've helped fund the printing of those regional visitor guides.
I had the experience for the first time in a long time of traveling through the YK in the summer this year. And wow, there were a lot of people in the area fishing. I was not used to that. Doing a lot at the airport with all the fishing rods around me.
So how some of the other work groups have been working or operating this during this work session this year is the tasks and everything that have been listed here are, you know, would be revisited at next year's work session to look at progress and next steps and everything like that. So do we want to, I know I saw with one work group, there was close to 15 tasks, and, you know, at what point is too many tasks too many? I'll just ask the question to the group.
Well, you know, because it's part of the CEDS reporting process, I always recommend to the planning organizations that they choose at least 4 tasks, because if you get too many tasks, then you don't have enough people to work on the tasks, and therefore you can't report on them. So it's better to have at least 4 for each heading, and that way you have something to show what you've been working on with the planning program.
And I think some of these are already happening. So, you know, the Best in the West competitions are already happening. So it's a continuation of those. For the training program, it sounds like there are quite a few things that are either happening scattered that, you know, could be amplified a little bit more, coordinated a little bit more. And there may be a few steps to bring that more into new, like into the school districts, for example. And then it looks like there are some how-to manuals already. And maybe it's more, and I'm sorry, I put the link in very tiny font, but it is in the chat too, just so it would fit. But you know, with that one, it's kind of, well, there are these resources, so, you know, it's maybe the task is more building on those or getting them out to people more. And looks like Chalista has, you know, said we're already thinking about making a list of businesses to showcase. And I put the notes about I'm sorry, I didn't know if it was the Best in the West or the Center for Economic Development, adding the mentorship component. Oh yeah, you said it was to the Best in the West. Because that might be, I can see those two things being tied, you know, maybe that businesses that you're showcasing can also be a source of potential mentors in the future. It sounded like for the Chamber of Commerce, it's really a matter of, you know, who would take that on. It's not necessarily something that's going to have a lot of immediate action, aside from just finding out more about what's happened in the past. I also, you know, we had talked a little bit about micro lending opportunities. I think that's another one that is really going to depend on whether there is an entity, an organization that's willing to take that on. And I would say maybe that's something that could be explored with whoever are the partner organizations that might be doing lending opportunities for housing. I'm not sure exactly who's working with people on those, but I know in the housing session earlier today, people mentioned a couple of programs where they were working to get mortgages to get more housing built. So if people are doing that kind of lending, maybe whoever's doing that could be a partner and that sort of thing. But we didn't bring that down into the action planning strategies yet, because I don't think I heard anybody saying there would be a clear lead for that.
Did you get Andrea's idea in the chat about a business conference?
Oh, I did not. Thank you.
And actually this, I think, one of the first CEDS meetings or CEDS work sessions was actually an economic development summit where there were a lot of village corporations and others that attended. But and then it evolved more into a CEDS work session. So you know, once this pandemic kind of normalizes and more in-person things could happen, I know that we're trying to do an annual CEDS work session. You know, it wouldn't hurt to just combine a you know, a one-day business conference if you wanted to on the front end or at the tail end of the CEDS work session, so that it would you know, eliminate having to travel to do two different things. You know, that's some kind of idea for the future when we're able to do in-person stuff again.
Oh. Okay, is the conference a good springboard for the Chamber of Commerce? Am I interpreting that right? Oh, this is where the manuals are located. Okay. Yes, the CDFI. Okay. This is also the lending.
Yeah, I love the idea of a conference. Sorry, it's really close to my screen. And I'm wondering, did we already talk? There've been so many good ideas. Did we already talk about maybe tying that into the best in the West? Because it would be great to do kind of, we can do a youth segment along with that. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, we would love to be part of that.
Okay. Yes, putting all these links into one place be very helpful. Is there anybody who has like a website that would be appropriate for including links to a lot of these kind of documents and guides and
Maybe that's something that we should consider adding to the CEDS here, and like some kind of appendice to the CEDS that can be posted on the website, and just have each. I know a lot of the other work groups have also had links in their chats, and those could be captured and made appendices of those particular work groups.
okay. YK Business Alliance page, nice.
So I think we're kind of naturally talking about how things would look, which is kind of one of the next things we need to do is, what will something look like? What will these tasks look like when we say that they're done? What will they look like when, how will we measure their success and everything? So, we're throwing a lot of ideas out there, and we're naturally putting in solutions and everything. So maybe we should start capturing some of the indicators of success as well.
Okay. So I wonder maybe would we want something about like regional businesses that are started or sustained, or people using some of these supports? Shirley, what does the EDA like to hear from people when they participate in your programs?
Well, first of all, our overarching evaluation criteria is the number of jobs that have been created and the amount of private sector investment that's been generated by the business that started. So business startups, they're how much they invest into their business and how many jobs they create.
Shirley, would private sector investments, would that kind of include something, like some of the businesses helping to fund some of these ideas?
That's part of the private sector investment generation, yes.
Can we also, oh, sorry, Shirley, go ahead.
Well, it was Clarence, I think, that was going to talk.
Oh, sorry, Clarence.
Go ahead. Who was next?
I was just going to say, if we're going to add private sector, I would also advocate for public sector funds, whether we're talking about infrastructure bill or the ARPA funding. There are opportunities that could come into the region that I know organizations and we're actively looking at. And so if we just measure private sector, I know that's limited, and we're basically talking Donlin at that point. And Donlin, if it decides to go forward, we'll have major private sector investment in the region. But that's one project. We're talking about broad range. I think we have to consider that public fund involvement. Thank you.
And one of the work groups yesterday had that in there, had both captured in. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, this is Albert Twisted. Sorry, I've been in and out of some of this. I've had some phone calls, and I kind of echo what Andrea said. You want public as well. And then when you circle back to Donlin, if you think about business sustainability and opportunity for support businesses, I mean, I can think of things like expediting in Bethel. Maybe you've got a contract to supply fasteners, all those kinds of things for a 30-year project. I think that needs to be in the back of our minds here, because if you go to the bank and you have a contract with Donlin to provide something for a long period of time, it's pretty attractive. And it also have a chance to really, put your business on solid footing and build a reputation and name for yourself. So really, I think it's something, I know it wasn't highlighted earlier, but I think it's something that ought to be looked at pretty heavily, because if it goes, just like Andrea said, there's going to be all kinds of opportunities for private investment and all kinds of things to support that thing going for 30 years.
So what do we think might be some targets in the next couple of years for any of these indicators? And how might we how might they be, the information might be collected? So if we're looking at number of jobs created, and I added and or retained, because maybe with business, well, I mean, if it's a business startup, it's probably created, but the economic impact of that business might be greater than just the business alone. So, how do we have a way of tracking how many jobs are being created or retained? Do we have a way of tracking some of the private and public sector investments and the number of new businesses started?
Would that be something that we would want to, like the idea of having a business conference and everything? Would it be something that we would want to kick off with With that, you know, the regional business conference that we talked about would
I think that would be great, Clarence.
and everything. Go ahead, Shirley. Sorry.
Well, now, when you talked about the regional business conference, I think by sharing that kind of information by new businesses or new entrepreneurs, I think it incentivizes people who would like to start a business to see someone who's actually started one and who's running a business. I think that incentivizes for other people to do that. But I was also going to say something about like the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, a lot of times some of those folks track how many visitors come to the region and how much they estimate how much visitors spend within the region. So, I mean, those are some other metrics that could be tracked as a result of a Chamber of Commerce or a visitor guide, because that brings new money into the region by the visitors. And then the one of the things I like to see on the training centers or the programs that EDA invests in is how many trainings they have and how many students they've put through their training program. It incentivizes funders to keep investing into the training centers.
Okay, I like that with the trainings, because that is something that we included. And then maybe whoever is offering trainings would report on that indicator. Chamber of Commerce would collect information on visitor statistics. The Chamber of Commerce could collect information on businesses started. If businesses are getting state business licenses, you can always also look that up on the state website. That is very easy to do.
It is very easy to look that up on the state website. You go to DCRA and they have a lot of really great information on businesses and business startups. And it's even by community.
So I'm wondering, with the amount of public and private sector investment, if there is, I think what part of what would need to happen is if there's some central organization within the region, and maybe this is ABCP, maybe this is somebody else, who could be, who, like these other businesses that are starting up and the amount of money that they get, they can report to somebody regionally to be able to what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, I feel like I'm getting a cold. My brain is slow. But aggregate, like you kind of crowdsource the information and then aggregate it at the regional level and bring that out. I know, because to really, for one individual business, you're probably going to estimate some of that as part of your business plan. If you're looking for somebody to invest in your business. But at a regional level, I don't know if anybody in Clarence's office is going to run around and track everybody down and answer them. But but if they could be available for that reporting, or if that's something that people going to get some of this training on starting a business, during the training, they could be told, hey, when you do start your business, you might want to share some of your successes. Or maybe that's something Chalista could help find out as you're developing, business showcases and whatnot. Oh, Best in the West has a system. Okay, I guess I can number the indicators. And if Colleen, if you know about the Best in the West system to track new business startups and how much money was awarded, or if anybody else, maybe Julie or somebody could talk about that, that sounds very exciting.
We have a list of everyone who has ever been awarded funding. I don't know how complete it is. I've only been involved for the last 2 years, so I don't know exactly how much was tracked over. I think Best in the West has been going on for about 10. But I can also track that down. That just has a list, but there isn't too much on, the ones that won, 10 years ago. I'm not sure how much is kept track of. I also did a report on kind of the history of the program that I can also share. And I'm also on the organizing committee of 1 Million Cups Anchorage. So thank you for that, Miranda.
Great. Does everybody know what 1 Million Cups is? Because that could be something, actually, maybe I should put it. As a resource with the regional business conference. But it is a regular, so maybe like on a weekly basis, people who are interested in starting their own business, who are in the process of starting their own business, who are already successful business owners can get together and share their ideas and get feedback in more of an informal morning coffee conversation kind of way.
Yes, thank you. It's we stream it to Facebook Live and on Zoom. And actually, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, we actually had a Best in the West alum present. Yvonne Jackson presented on her business, Alaska Rural Professional Development. So I can also share that if anyone is interested in seeing her presentation.
Okay. Miranda is very excited about that.
It's true.
Well, for anyone who's not reading the chats as they're going, that's great. Okay, yeah, that could be one way of people connecting.
Did you get the indicator of success for #1 from Brenda, State of Alaska Research Analysis Division?
No, thank you. Okay. Oh, and here's Yvonne's recording on Facebook. I'm adding this.
I'm going to do another time check here. We're at about 20 minutes left in our session. And some people might have meetings coming up and everything. So I just wanted to make sure that we leave enough time for people who want to make any final comments, ask questions or concerns, when they think we should meet again. And if there was something you wanted to say on any other part of what we did and you didn't, and you're kicking yourself for not saying something, you could say it at this time as well. So I'll just open the floor up right now, and anyone who wants to say something.
Clarence, this is Alba again. Just wanted to, again, same thing I mentioned before. I looked at the highlighted things on letter E. It's not highlighted. Just want to make sure we just have that in the back of our mind, because, you know, if that project goes, it's going to be there'll be a lot of opportunity in the small business development and entrepreneurship. That's just what I want to reiterate. But thank you for the forum.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm going to add this note about the 1 million cups. It's called 1 million cups Anchorage, but it is a statewide thing because it's part of a nationwide organization that will not let them be 1 million cups Alaska. Well, that's too bad. But I'm glad that it's open to everybody.
They're very strict on their rules, and I've been trying to get them to let us rename, but they won't.
Well, Clarence, what do you think we should do for scheduling the next meeting?
We could either go quarterly like some of the other work groups. I know a couple other work groups said that they wanted to meet quarterly. We would probably have to have someone, you know, kind of lead the quarterly meeting. Or if we just want to say meetings to be announced, then we'll meet in, the next meeting will be in December or January. But it's up to the work group. I don't want to dictate something on my own.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet quarterly. And if there are, if there's interest in making a more formalized group, whether we call it YK Business Alliance or if it, is just the name of the working group or whatever, if we want to kind of designate, a core team of folks, I'm happy to participate in that. So I think, this is really exciting. And if you can't tell from the chat, I'm trying not to chime in too much here in the discussion part, but I think folks have a lot of really good ideas, and it's great to be part of this conversation today. So thanks.
I see some people putting in the chat quarterly. Quarterly would be good. So maybe we can do something quarterly and go from there.
So Miranda, would you want to help lead the quarterly meeting?
I'm happy to, if no one else, if there's somebody else who's excited about it and wants to, go for it. But if it's helpful for me to, I'm more than happy to.
Well, I think it'd be good to have maybe one or maybe even two people who could tag team as being sort of work group leaders and help facilitate some of the, and organize some of the conversations so that
Yeah, that'd be great.
Clarence is not overextended.
Thanks.
Would anybody want to work with Miranda on that? Do you need a buddy? Do you want a buddy?
This is Brenda from Chillista. Miranda, I could help you be your right-hand person at Chillista.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, with that, maybe our next steps will be, I will definitely clean up these notes a bit and send them out. If there are any, I mean, nobody gave any presentations or shared any physical documents in this session, but if there are things that you want to send to us to go out with the notes when we report back to the group, be happy to do that. We'll kind of get these a little bit more organized to make it easier for some next steps and actions. And then I think beyond that, maybe it's developing that next quarterly schedule of meetings and getting another meeting on the schedule. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and if people who are on the work group call right now, if you didn't provide your emails, you might want to write them in the chat so you guys can get the notes. And if there's anyone else that you think that might be good to add to this work group, be sure to get them involved as well. And I guess I'll just do one more call for final comments. Or if there's any part that you wanted to put anything else you wanted to add to any other part of our meeting today, now's your chance.
I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to participate. TKC hasn't always been part of these. I think a lot of AVCP's efforts in the past have been Bethel-centric because that's where the population is. AVCP, Chillista, these region-wide groups, I don't envy you guys at all having to treat all 56 villages equally. We have the luxury at TKC of just having 10 communities and a sub-region that is our priority. So I'm very excited to see a lot of these initiatives over the last 2 days, really a region-wide effort, everybody involved, not just Bethel centric. So thank you for that. And thank you for the opportunity to participate and share some of the things that we're doing in the Middle Kuskokwim.
And like I mentioned during the welcome yesterday, you know, the YK CEDS may be spearheaded by ABCP and everything, but it's for the region, and it's for everyone in the region, all the organizations and all the stakeholders in the region. So it's good to get more and more people involved. And it's good to have more and more people involved. And Miranda was asking when the next, which quarter we should focus on. If the work group doesn't mind, we can focus on January. Is that good with everyone? All right, hearing some silence, thinking that
there are a lot of yeses in the chat.
All right.
Yes, so we will look to January.
Okay, other than that, I think we've accomplished the agenda that we wanted to. We have 10 minutes to spare. So, you know, if you guys want to tell a story, I'm open to listening to stories. Or if anyone wants to share a song or anything like that. Other than that, we can sign off early. Up to you guys.
Oh, Miranda is asking January 25th.
Just going to see if there's a date that worked for folks who are interested in participating, so I can stick it on my calendar.
Do you want to survey monkey, Miranda?
Oh, I just figured since we had folks on the call, it might be easier than sending out a doodle poll or a survey monkey or something.
I think we've lost about half a dozen already, so.
Yeah, I think there might be a few people who were not able to attend today who wanted to and will want to be part of that too. But I put down that suggestion, so maybe, you know, we can include it as.
Yeah, maybe January 25th in the afternoon.
Two p.m. after coffee.
I just want to thank everybody, and nobody wants to hear me sing anything, anytime, anywhere, especially at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. I guarantee you that.
Oh, come on, Alba.
I've got a face made for radio and a voice made for something else.
All right. Brianna, everyone, for participating, and hopefully we'll see you all at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.